Good morning, happy Thursday, welcome back. I hope you had a good night's sleep. I hope you're feeling rested, and we're here again on this Thursday morning because of a lockdown due to the coronavirus, and remembering that for most of us as adults we would normally be out at work. For most of our children and young people, they would normally be going to a school building. Not everybody, because remember, some children that are still doing that, and some people are now back at work. But if you're watching this like me, you're probably at home because your work hasn't restarted in the outside world yet, and your children are at home. And it's important to keep remembering why we're doing this, which is that we're staying home to keep ourselves safe and to keep other people safe. So yesterday I was talking about the fact again that this week is Mental Health Awareness Week. I think yesterday I said it was World Mental Health Awareness. I think it's actually UK. As I mentioned earlier in the week, there's a charity which has been around for 70 years trying to raise awareness around mental health, and that's called the Mental Health Foundation, and as far as I'm aware they're a UK based charity. So I've been talking about this week the idea of what mental health is. I've been talking about the fact that it's something which many of us, we know what mental health is, and sometimes many of us will at some point experience poor mental health or mental ill health in our lives. And each day I've been reminding myself and perhaps you of what the World Health Organization definition of mental health is, because for me it's really important to remember that it's quite simple. It's about leading a good life, leading a life, or a good enough life, a life where we are able to contribute. So I'm going to read that once again because I keep saying I'm quite boring, but I think these sort of reminders, particularly this time, can be really helpful. So mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her society. Why wouldn't we want that? Why wouldn't we want that for ourselves and for our children? And so yesterday I was talking about the fact that, sometimes I have days now when my mental health isn't that great, but I like to kind of compare it to having a cold. So when you have a physical cold, you might get a bit snotty, have a sore throat, have a headache. And for me, a mental cold is like having that mental snot. And the mental snot is feelings or experiences in my body or my mind that just leave me feeling under the weather. And for me, the mental snot can be thoughts or worries, or I talk about voices in my head. They're not literally voices, but they're thoughts really that tell me things that aren't helpful, so I'm rubbish, or I'm hopeless, or I'm disgusting. And when I have those days, it's hard to shake them. And some days I just have to remember I'm going to get through this. And so today I am feeling better than I was yesterday. So the cold is starting to lift, the snot is starting to go. And for me, something that's been really helpful is writing. For a long time I've been writing a diary, and I write down what I'm feeling. And for me that's been really helpful, because on a day like yesterday, where I really wasn't feeling great, I was able to go back and see that actually a year ago or 3 years ago I had similar days, and perhaps worse days, and that can be reassuring as well. If you keep a diary and you realise that 3 years ago you had more snotty days than you do now, because that then makes you feel hopeful. So a diary and writing for me has been really useful, and it's something that I encourage children to do and young people. So if they come to me and say, I'm feeling miserable, don't know why, one of the first things I suggest is, well, let's keep a note of this, maybe for 5 days, and see if there's anything in particular that's making it worse, making it better. And then if there's not, then what can we do to help? Who could we talk to? Who could we go to? What might help you to feel better? So that writing and keeping a record for me has been and is really important, and it's a useful strategy if you've got a child or young person at home at the moment who maybe you might be a bit worried about and thinking, oh, is this normal? You know, because remember, teenagers often have mental snot that goes with hormones, or that goes with adolescence, and that need to start breaking away and becoming independent. And what that means is sometimes their brains, you know, make them have these feelings of anger or frustration, because they're actually important. If you're angry and frustrated, you look outside and see what's there, and that helps you to move on. And if you're a teenager or an adolescent, that's part of growing up. So sometimes with teenagers, you know, we just have to hold it and not worry about it. But if you are worried, one thing you can do, or your young person can do, is just make a note of how many days this has been for or is going on for. And the general rule of thumb from professionals is, if it's 2 weeks of feeling bleh, then that might be a time to ring somebody and see, maybe is there anything else you've missed or you haven't thought of. Just another voice, another pair of ears to listen. So that's just a couple of thoughts there. I'm just going to finish talking about talking, because one of the things that can be difficult when you're feeling low or anxious is to talk. And yet a big message is, you know, that we should talk when we're feeling bad. And I think sometimes that can be really difficult, because sometimes it's the last thing you want to do. And so if you're with somebody that you know is feeling low, it might be that they don't want to talk, and it might be that the most important thing you can do is just be with them and not go away. Or if they really want you to go away, but then to check in, to just knock on the door and open the door and say, everything okay? Or, I'm here for you if you need anything. Maybe that's better. I'm here for you if you need anything. Because the are you okay, again, that can make someone feel like, oh, I don't know if I'm okay. I don't know how I feel. And sometimes when we're feeling under the weather, it's that I don't know how I'm feeling that can be difficult. So talking isn't always going to help, but checking in and being there, just a text, thinking of you, I'm here if you need anything. Just to knock on the door if you're in the house, head round the door, I'm here if you need anything. And again, each individual will be different, but for some children or young people, just a hug might be the thing. And if you're in a house where you're allowed to hug, still, a hug or a cup of tea. So the talking thing, just sometimes, there are lots of people who can talk. I can talk for Britain, and I can talk for Britain about things that really aren't about what's going on for me. So my talking is often a cover. So it's worth remembering that. The other thing is breathing is really important when we're feeling that kind of discombobulated. Particularly the breathing out. So remember the simple things. I'm just going to put a link below this video today to the website I've talked about before, Action for Happiness, full of tips, simple things, and although it says it's action for happiness, it's actually action for mental health, because there's a lot of science behind the stuff on there, that really helps us when we're feeling a bit of mental snot. So have a great Thursday. Stay well, stay safe, stay at home if that's, or go out in a socially distanced way. See you tomorrow.